Hi there, it's Vanessa, and today I'm going to show you a stitch pattern that I got from this book. I recently got a stockpile of older, I guess vintage, knitting books and magazines, and this was one of the books, so I highly recommend it. It's got some neat little techniques in it. And one of the stitches was, she called it the bubble stitch. To me, it kind of reminds me of gnocchi, to be honest. But anyways, this is my practice swatch. It is, each pattern repeat is 10 stitches wide. So this one is 80 stitches wide, which is a little wide. I'm not 100% happy with this swatch. I think I had my tension a little too tight. It makes a very firm fabric, not a lot of drape to it. I'm also not, because there's not another row of stitches after this one, you can see that the end opened up more than the others. So those are a couple of things that I'm going to change in my next swatch. I'm going to use a looser tension. This is the back side. I'm going to use a looser tension, and I think I'm only going to go, actually I'm going to go 5 rows wide because I like that width better. And like I said, looser tension, and on my end segments I'm going to add an extra needle on each end, and I will just plain knit that needle. Okay, so that means I need to pull 52 needles for this swatch, and that also means that instead of using these dots to, like these little whatever on the machine to guide me to where my repeats start and begin, I am going to, so 2, 4, 5. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put, this is a dry erase marker, so 2, 4, 5. And I'm going to put a little dot, if you can see it. So 2, 4, 5, just at the front there, so I can see it as I knit. 2, 4, 5, and I will be less likely to lose my place. 2, 4, 5. Now this pattern, you can do it on any machine. It is strictly hand manipulated or hand tooled, so you don't need a fancy machine. The book itself was actually for chunky knitters. I'm knitting it on a standard. So all you have to really do is do your tension swatches and play around with the tension until you get a result you like. Now it is a little bit of a time consuming stitch, I will say that much. And but it has a lot of texture and I like the effect. Like for instance, the swatch that I was just showing you, like, would look kind of cool, say, on the bottom of a sweater instead of ribbing. You could have it on the collar of a sweater. If you say we're doing like a loose 3/4 sleeve, it would make a very interesting cuff. edging on a pocket, a hat, so with this looser tension that I'm going to use, I'm hoping that there will be just a hair more drape to the fabric that results. Oh, look at that. I just wound my yarn around my gate pegs so that I can use it as a scarf. So now I'm doing an E-wrap cast on. I'm going from right to left, which means that I'm actually wrapping my yarn clockwise instead of the normally recommended counterclockwise, but it works. I've been using it in this direction for a lot of practice swatches, and it casts on just fine. And maybe because I'm left-handed, but I actually find it, when I'm not on camera, quite a bit easier to do. I can actually get some speed when I go in this direction. Okay. So this first swatch was done with a 4-ply acrylic at tension or stitch size 5. And this yarn is an acrylic of a similar weight, and I have gone right up to the number 7 for my stitch size. I have my carriage set to knit, so I'm going to knit. I'm going to take up my slack first just to make sure I don't get any loops at the edges. So I'm going to knit 1 row from left to right. Okay, and then I am going to put all of my needles in to hold, except for from this one over. So that gives me my first 10. This is going to be my first stitch repeat, plus the extra one that I want to knit to keep this row of repeats from opening up like it did on my swatch. Okay, now I am going to set my carriage so that it only knits the stitches that are not in hold. Now for this pattern, I'm going to pull the camera back just a touch. For this pattern, I actually find that for weights, it's easiest to use these with my small barrel weights. So as I move from segment to segment in the pattern, I will move my weights along, because the stitches you're not knitting are in hold position, so they're not going to fall off the needle bed, right? So I'm going to cross my fingers on this first row because I don't really have quite enough to, well, maybe. Okay. I guess I don't have to cross my fingers. I can hang a weight. Okay. So we're only knitting the first 11 stitches, the one extra plus the 10 for the pattern. So I'm going to bring my carriage over to this side. Going to make sure everything is knitted, and then I'm going to put my extra stitch into hold plus 5 opposite the carriage because we're short rowing. Going to move this weight up just a hair, and I'm going to pull the first needle closest to my carriage into hold so I get the auto wrap, and I'm going to put this needle into upper working position, and then I'm going to go, of course, to the right. So now I'm going to manually wrap my yarn, and I'm going back to the left. Pull that needle into hold, push this one back into upper working position. And I'm going to continue doing this until the 10 stitches for this pattern repeat are complete. Adjust my weight periodically. Like, don't forget you're short rowing, so you need to make sure that your stitches aren't going to hop off on you. Okay, so that was the last needle of my original 10. So now I'm going to wrap this one last time. I'm going to put the remaining 5 needles for this pattern segment back into upper working position, plus my next 10, my next group of 10 go into upper working position. And then I'm going to knit to the left. Okay. Now I'm going to hang my next weight. Okay. And I'm going to bring all of these needles except for 5. So back into hold position. Okay. So now we're going to bring this needle forward, and we're going to push that one back, and then we're going to knit to the right. Then we're going to manually wrap that first needle and go back to the left. So again, we're going to keep doing this until all of the pattern has been knitted. And I see have a knot coming up in my yarn. Lovely. Okay, so now this is the last needle on this segment. So I'm going to wrap a needle from the previous group. So I'm just going to tug that down a little bit. The stitch didn't fully form. Okay, and then I'm going to put the remaining 5 from this segment plus the next 10, 2, 4, back into upper working position. So all of those needles will knit on the next pass. Okay. I'm just trying to figure out where that knot is going to land. So now again, I'm going to leave the first 5 of these needles closest to the carriage in my working position, and I'm going to pull the rest of them into hold. And then I'm going to move my weight over carefully so it doesn't drop on my foot or my floors. So I'm going to bring the first needle forward and push this one back. Okay, and then I'm going to kind of oh, the knot went through. Okay, so manually wrap. Back. Pull this one out. Push this one back. Manually wrap. Okay, I'm going to adjust my weight. Okay, I'm going to pause for 1 second so I can go and find a clothespin. Okay. So I know I'm going to have an end to weave in, and my preference is to have it happen in this meteor, like, you know, meteor part of the stitch pattern. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to wrap that and hang it, and we'll see how this goes. So then in the stitch pattern, this is where I'm at, and I'm just gonna kind of hold that just a little bit, just enough to get it through, and then I'm going to knit, and I'm going to close that gate. Okay, so I think we're okay there, and that that completes this segment, because there's my blue dot from my, so I'm going to manually wrap the last needle from the previous, and then I'm going to put these, the remainder of this segment, back into work, plus the next 10. Okay. So let's move our weight. And then we're gonna bring all of the needles except for 5 into our hold position. Push one forward, one back. Nice little manual wrap there. Okay. Okay, so that's another segment finished. So we do our manual wrap, put our needles back into our upper working position. And I'm just trying to decide if I should, I think we're going to leave this one alone for now. We're just going to do the 10 of the segment, but we're going to leave that extra one off by itself until later. Okay. So we'll move our weight over. except for 5 forward into our hold position, and then we bring that first needle forward and push that one back, and it's the same thing. We just keep doing that and manually wrapping until the segment's finished. So, and you always want to keep an eye on your weight and move it as you need to, because short rowing like this, the yarn really does want to hop off those needles. And it has to be weight that can move independently, so that you're only weighting the segment you're working on. Okay, so this is the last one in that one. So we're going to push these needles back into work. Okay, so now what we need to do is we need to move from left to right. So let's go over how we're going to do that. So to start with, we're going to leave those needles in work, and we're going to knit in this direction. And now that we've done that, so we're bringing the extra needle that's there just to keep our pattern from opening up, plus 5. Okay, so then we bring this stitch forward, push this one back. So pretty much exactly the same thing, but in reverse, which sounds simple, but I swear to you, I thought it was going to break my brain when I was doing this until I got the hang of it. So then we do our manual wrap, same as before, just on the opposite side. Okay. So because we're moving in the other direction, we bring this needle forward and push that one back. So just the opposite of what we were doing. And we manually wrap on this side. And we keep doing that until we've knitted all the stitches. Okay. And wrap. Pull this one forward, push this one back. This is the last stitch of the pattern. So we're going to wrap this needle. We're going to push that back into our upper working position, along with the rest of the needles for this first segment, plus all of the needles for our next segment. Okay, there we go. So now that our carriage is over there, we're going to pull everything except for those 5 comes in to hold. Okay, so keep an eye on our weights and pull this one forward, push this one back. Again, it's all the same, it's just reversed, so even though it's the same, because it's reversed, it's not necessarily easy. I wouldn't say this is a quick stitch, but once you get the hang of it, it's not too bad. Okay, so this is the last stitch of this group. Okay, so we're going to wrap. We're going to bring the remaining 5 needles of this group back into hold, plus our next group. And then we knit. Okay. Now I'm going to bring over the weight. I don't really want to. Okay. And then, so we leave the first 5 in our working position. Pull the rest into hold. Bring that one forward, bring this one back. And we're just going to continue working the repeats. Just like that. Okay, so that's another segment done. So same as before, we put the right needles back into work. And we knit across. Carry our weight over. These needles go into hold. That one forward, that one back. Watch we don't catch our sleeves. You want to keep a little bit of an eye on your stitch formation too. Oh, okay, that wasn't correct. Just to make sure that everything is knitting off the needles as it should. Okay, so this is our last segment. Once again, I'm going to leave that outside needle in the hold position for now. We'll just leave it there until later. Okay. Before we go too far, let's get this weight over here. And wrap. Okay, so that was the last needle for this group. So again, we're wrapping the needle from the prior group, and now we're going to push all of these needles into our upper working position, and we're going to knit that last needle too. Okay, so that's it. You've done the full pattern repeat. You've done all of them from right to left and then back to the right again, and you just keep going with that until you've hit the length you want. I think if you're going to leave the work for any length of time, you should maybe take the weights off. I don't think it should be left overnight with those weights on, especially at this looser tension. So yeah, that's that. Until the next time, thank you.